Welcome to Story Comic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 408. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com, and we're excited to have with us the acclaimed and internationally celebrated author of I Just Can't Make This Stuff Up, Overcoming Fear and Accepting My Spiritual Gifts, Alejandra G. Brady.
Yes.
Alejandra.
Hello, Barney. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And it's pretty fun because we've been talking probably even before we started recording for a good 10 minutes. So, yeah. And this is a reschedule because you were supposed to be on a couple months ago and you had a little hurricane situation down there in Florida.
We had a back-to-back hurricane situation here in Tampa. Yes, I live in Tampa, Florida. So we stayed for the first one. And then when you and I were scheduled, it was during the second one, and we had to evacuate to Hilton Head, South Carolina. So we were gone for a week, and there was no power here. I would not have been able to do it even if we stayed. But we're near the water, so we were in a mandatory evacuation zone. First time in 35 years, like I was sharing with you, of living here in Tampa. Craziness. There's still so much to do here, and there's still so many people in really bad shape, unfortunately, but we're getting through it.
Let's talk a little bit about your book, Alejandra. So your memoir has, I would say, a bold and intriguing title. What inspired you to write I Just Can't Make This Stuff Up?
Up in quotations.
and how did you, and you share your spiritual journey with the world?
So the title was something that I liked from the beginning because as I was guided to write this, I actually was guided to write this during a meditation when I asked what my purpose on this planet was moving forward. I just turned 50. I'd been recuperating. I was in the middle of recuperating from a very unforeseen and very unexpected cervical fusion. So I'm fused. My neck is fused, and I've got a plate that holds my neck up to my head here. And I was recovering from that. Our son had graduated from college, had moved to Chicago, was living his best life. So we were truly empty nesters, and there was a lot of stuff happening, and I just didn't know, what was I supposed to do? I'd shut down my design business to recuperate. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to go back to it. I've been an interior designer for over 20 years at this point now, but I just wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to keep doing. So I had hired a Feng Shui consultant to come to my house before my surgery to kind of help me with my bedroom and just see what I could do, because it was going to be a really long recovery, weeks and weeks and weeks in a neck brace. And she did. And then that kind of shifting the energy of my house kind of started shifting me. And it made me curious about other stuff. So that led to my wanting to learn to meditate. Meditation led to my asking this question. And I got an answer. I heard a voice through my right ear. A man spoke to me and said, "You're going to write a book." When I asked what my purpose was. And I said, "No, thank you. I have no interest in writing a book." Literally no interest. And so the meditation went on. And I did that for 5 days in a row. I started on a Monday, and that was the assignment, because I was learning how to meditate, and you were supposed to ask the questions and see if you got answers. And I'm like, well, what happens if you get answers you don't want? And so I was. So every single day that week, I got the same answer. You're going to write a book. And so finally on Friday, I was like, who cares what a white 50-year-old middle-aged, by all accounts, privileged woman has to say? Like, I don't have this. In my mind, I didn't think I had this crazy story that would be anything that people would be interested in reading. So I got told to just start writing down what was happening. And some days some stuff would happen, and other days nothing would happen. And I'd write down, I hate this. This is stupid. Why am I wasting my time on this? So forth and so on. But as I continued to write stuff down, more and more stuff started happening. And then the stuff that started happening is what anyone would use this phrase for. Like, I'd just be like, I can't make this up. Like, I just can't make up this stuff that's happening to me. So fast forward about a year into my writing, and I still wasn't sure that I was going to do anything at all with it. I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'll write journals. I went to this place that I love to go to in Tucson, Arizona called Miraval. And as I work with healers when I go there, it's kind of where I go to recharge. I walked into a class with a healer, and we were just going to do a session. I'd never met her before. And I just said, hi, my name's Alejandra. And she looked at me and she goes, she's French, so very, very heavy French accent. What do you want the title of your book to be? And I'm like, excuse me? Like, I hadn't talked to anybody about it yet. My husband knew, but other than that, I'm like, if it's not going to go anywhere, like, I don't want to start talking about this and then look stupid that I didn't write it, that it went nowhere. And I just said, I'm sorry. She goes, yes, your book. What's the title of your book going to be? And so I said, well, how I'm healing from all this trauma. She goes, no, God, no. What do you want the name of your book to be? And so I said the phrase, and she goes, that's the title of your book. And I'm like, okay, I've been in this room for about 30 seconds. Like, how do you even know this stuff? But that is the way my life works now. Like, the more that I've leaned into it, the more that I rely on spirit to guide me, the more that I just believe in the magic of it all, the more stuff like this happens. And people say this to me all the time. It's like, I just can't make this up either. I was doing a consultation with a client on Zoom today in England, and she was just telling me how she had moved forward with this project and she was doing really well. And all of a sudden, in between the screen, it's like, if I'm talking to you right now, my hands are nowhere near the computer, neither. She was holding the phone. Balloons came up all over the screen.
What?
They're like, what just happened? She goes, what did you do? I go, I did nothing. My hands are over here, And she goes, I'm just holding the phone. And she goes, what the hell just happened? And I'm like, this is what I'm telling you. This is my life these days, just magic appears all over the place. And it's stuff that you can't explain and you can't make it up. And I love it. I love it. So yeah, that's how it all kind of happened.
Talk to me a little bit about, the subtitle, Overcoming Fear and Accepting My Spiritual Gifts. I mean, it's where does the fear part come into play?
Accepting the gifts. It's scary. The gifts that I have are not scary, but it was scary to me because of the way that I was raised. I was raised in a Latin Catholic family on the border with Mexico in Laredo, Texas, hence the Alejandra. And then I married a guy that I met at Notre Dame, hence the Brady. So that's how you get Alejandra Brady. But so, the way that I was raised, a lot of the gifts that I have that I now embrace and am so grateful for, and I truly believe to be from God and from the light, because I will only work in the light. I do not delve into the darkness at all. They're not things that I grew up talking about or hearing about, and some family members along the way have even called them evil. And I had to decide whether I was going to say yes or no to accepting them, because we are all given free will. So I can be offered my gifts and I can say, no, I don't want them. No, I'm not ready. Not now, whatever the case may be. I said yes. I just said they had to be of the light. I would never dive into, the dark side of anything. And they needed to be used to help others. And that is how I am where I am. But so my gifts are, I am clairvoyant. So I see people who have passed, and I've done that since I was a child. I am very clairaudient. That's my strongest gift right now. And that means I hear things. So I will receive messages either for me, like when I was told, and it was Archangel Michael, because then I asked, well, who are you? And I was told it was Archangel Michael that was telling me that I was going to write this book. But I will sometimes get messages for other people that I'm with or that I'm around that are completely nonsensical to me. And I had to kind of get over the fact of, well, do I say anything? Do I ask them? So if I get something that strongly, I will ask, may I share something with you? And if people are open, I will share. And usually it makes perfect sense to them, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. It's not supposed to. It's not for me. But sometimes people will say no, and I have done my job. I have tried.
And so, kind of like going towards it, because you kind of mentioned it a little bit about your biological family.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of both brought some challenges and revelations. Describe again, like, how did that reconnecting with them kind of influence more of your spiritual awakening?
So most people that see me, right, will say, how is it that you are Mexican, Latin, whatever, because I'm blonde hair, blue eyed. And by the way, there are a lot of Mexicans that are blonde hair, blue eyed, because I've been to Mexico City. There's like 30 million people there. You know, you have every shape, size imaginable. But I was adopted as an infant. I was 5 weeks old when I was adopted by the parents who I call my parents, and that's who raised me in Laredo. So I was born in Austin and adopted and taken to Laredo. When I turned 40, my parents had already passed, the ones who raised me. My mom dropped dead of a heart attack at 66 when I was 38, and my dad died basically of a broken heart. He kind of willed it to happen 6 months later to the day. So by the time I was 38 and I saw them for my birthday, by the time I was 39, I had buried my dad the day before my birthday. So it was a really, really rough year. Fast forward to 40, I get a letter in the mail and I find out that my biological family has been trying for 20 years to find me on my mother's side. And I was a closed adoption in 1967. And as my dad said, you started off expensive and it never stopped. I'm sure my husband can attest to that as well. So when it was closed, it became more expensive because they sealed all the records back then. And it was not a thing to like have the biological mother come to the birthday parties and be a part of the family and all that stuff, right? I mean, you gave up your child, That's the end of the story. So my parents always told me I was adopted, which was amazing. So I always knew I was. But when they found me, I wasn't expecting it because I had never looked. I personally do not have that hole or that void that I do know a lot of adopted children have, and that where they feel something's missing. I didn't have it, so I never looked. It never mattered to me. But I always had one phrase that I would say. I'm like, however, if she ever comes looking for me, I will be open to it because I am grateful. My parents raised me to be grateful to the person who gave me up. She was 17 when she had me. So very grateful that she could have done a lot of other things, right? But she wanted me to have a better life. So she gave me up. So I always had that little phrase, never thinking that would happen. But they found me at 40. And for 11 years, I did try and have a relationship, and it was good. And then it was not. And then it was good. Then it was not. But as I became stronger in my gifts and as I shared my gifts with them, on the plus side, like you were saying, I found out that my gifts are hereditary. So they do come from her. She refused them. Hers came in dark. Mine came in light. So she said, no, totally get that. However, then her husband called me evil and of the devil for having those gifts. And I'm like, I kind of feel like the opposite here. I kind of feel like my gifts are being used to help others, you know, whether they're grieving. I do it through homes. So I still do interior design, but I do it with Feng Shui. And since I'm highly intuitive, I can tell what's going on. Like the houses can talk to me. So I can see what's going on in the house. And so then that's kind of when I knew I had to step away because they were just not wishing me well. But I'm grateful. They were very good teachers for a lot of things. And I'm grateful for the time I had with them. I'm grateful I got to know them. I chose to close the door in 2019. I don't know if that door will ever be reopened. As of now, I don't feel the need to do that. But, you know, never say never. Life is long. So I wish them nothing but the very best. And I understand their point of view, but you know, I am very respectful of their religion, and I was kind of shocked when they were not respectful of me.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. It's also, as we say, it's also a memoir. So the book is filled with some extraordinary spiritual aha moments. What do you see in your book? Is that what's one story in particular from your book that still amazes you when you think about it?
I think just the fact that there is a book amazes me, honestly, truly, because I just never imagined my life like that. I never imagined I'd be doing this. I never thought about it. It was never something that I yearned for. You know, I feel kind of bad on some days because there's some people who have worked their entire lives to be writers and never get published or never get the notoriety or the awards or have a bestseller. And I'm so incredibly grateful that this is the pivot that my life took, and this is where I am, and I'm able to reach so many people all over the world, you know, who DM me almost daily and say, I bought your book and it's helped me so much. And again, this book isn't for the enlightened souls who are already just so beyond all of us and are the teachers. I wrote this book so that people who were just quote unquote waking up or understanding that they have spiritual gifts and choosing to accept them, maybe don't feel so alone, because it's been a lonely ride for me. And that is with a loving husband, amazing son, good friends. But when you do accept your spiritual gifts and when you do start using them, a lot of times people don't understand. And so people have known you one way for however long they've known you. And then you're suddenly this different person, and you're wanting to talk about different things, and you're wanting to share these experiences. And I was very surprised at how closed off so many people were. And, you know, that's okay. That's their journey. This is mine. But my hope in having my life pivot this way and in the direction that it's now going is that I can share stories and I can, you know, help other people who are just starting to go through this, maybe feel a little less alone. One of the funniest stories to me was, at the beginning, I was very, very interested and I needed lots of validation. You know, if I was get a message, I would be like, I need to have the message like 3 times, you know, I'm backwards on Sunday, and it, you know, just all these things like it. So it's not in my head. I know that I'm not crazy. This is not in my head. This is really coming from spirit. And I got told to go work with different teachers. So I'd find different teachers. I went and did my very first past life regression, which is such a cool thing to do. I don't know if you've ever done one or been interested. But again, going back to my Catholic upbringing, you're not really doing past lives as a Christian or as a Catholic. You know, it's like we are born, we die, we go to heaven, and that's the end, right? So it was a big leap to even go do this past life regression. And so I did it, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And it was like a 2.5-hour long event. But the crux of it was I needed to use my voice in this lifetime. I was killed in a previous lifetime. I was hung, actually, as a sorceress. In the light, I was white, but I was still hung, even though I was not doing dark magic, for using my words and for sharing my stories. So the whole point of this lifetime is to share those stories and to not be afraid, because I will not have that outcome. And that's what this is. This is apparently that wound on my physical body in this lifetime, my surgical scar from the anterior fusion, because it really did come out of nowhere. There was nothing wrong with my neck, and then suddenly I was going to end up paralyzed. So it is kind of wild. So I get home from this regression. My husband's waiting for me. He's like, you know, do you want a glass of champagne? I'll get a beer. Tell me all about it. He was trying to be so interested. I tell him the whole thing. And the first thing he says to me is like, but you're not going to tell anybody this, right? They're going to think you're crazy. I'm like, did I not just telling you that I'm supposed to use my voice? You know? So that's the way that all this moves forward. You know, you feel like you're making so much progress, and he's got the best intentions in the world, but he's worried, right? He's like, people are going to think you're crazy. Like, you can't walk around saying this stuff. I'm like, well, it's too late. It's over, you know? And now I don't care. And now he's like, you know, he's so used to it now, but this was in the beginning and he was worried, and I don't blame him. I think if the roles were reversed, I would be worried too. So hopefully the book helps people understand that this is part of it, and you're going to lose friends, and you're going to gain people in your life, and you're going to get to meet really cool people like you and others that I've worked with, you know, who you otherwise would never have crossed paths with. And there's a reason why. So I think that's the coolest part of the whole thing, that this even exists. She's here. You know?
And so talk to us a little bit about also there's the Feng Shui and intuition aspect of this as well. And you're a consultant for that as well, correct?
I am now. Yes. So Feng Shui is an ancient Chinese practice. It dates back 4 to 6,000 years ago, depending on the textbook. A lot of people will just say it's just good common sense. But, there are a lot of things to learn. It's a very layered practice. There are masters who've been studying it for 50 years. I am 7 years in, and I am fully certified in BTB Feng Shui, which is the more westernized approach, because that's mainly the homes that I work with. Whether here or in Europe or in Australia, around the world, I tend to work more with a Western style of home. But it is just a beautiful practice that helps me because, like any of us, if we've been doing something for a long time, we should be pretty good at it. So I can go in and make a house beautiful. But I was getting really burnt out. And I can't remember if this was once we were recording or not, when I was telling you that I'd been an interior designer for, at that point, 13, 14, close to 15 years. And I was just really burnt out on the clients that I was attracting and what they wanted. And it just wasn't feeling good anymore. So now I've put it out there, and I only want to work with people who not only want to make their homes aesthetically beautiful, because of course I love beauty, but energetically aligned, and if I can combine those two, I'm also certified in biophilic design. So I kind of combine all those modalities, and I'm certified in crystal healing, but I don't use it to like touch people. I use the crystal healing to help you figure out what stones and specimens to put in your home if you want to, but then that helps me understand the properties of the different stones and why we should put them where we put them. I've got my husband doing a little remodeling project for me, and he just pulled out some drywall, and I'm like, wait, don't put up the new patch. Let me go get some stones and throw them in. So, like, why not? Why not have good energy all over your house? So I kind of combine all my modalities to create a super elevated, energetically aligned house that's also beautiful. And I'm not interested in working with people who don't want to do that. So I say no anytime someone's like, well, can you design my home, but I don't want feng shui? That is no longer the client for me. And I'm okay with that. And I find that I am attracting the perfect clients for me now at this stage, because I think my energy is at that level, right?
And so what kind of advice would you be able to give somebody that how to become more attuned to the messages that the universe is sending them?
Best way to do it is to pay attention to see whether or not you're getting nudges. For me, it started as little nudges. And if I really go back and look at my timeline, as I had to do when I did the book, like I didn't connect the dots until I wrote the book, in all honesty. I was seeing people, literally dead people in my room from the age of 16 on that I can remember. It probably was happening since I was a kid, because I do remember constantly getting out of my bed and running to my parents' room and pulling on my mom's blanket to let me get in with them. So my guess is I was having things happen and just didn't have the vocabulary. But the first real one that I remember is at 16, and it was my boyfriend, and he died in an accident overnight, unfortunately, very tragically. But once I started writing the book, I was able to go back and look, and I was also able to go back and see how many times, again, universe, God, source, whatever, the higher power that you work with, whatever you want to call it. I think that you need to pay attention to the nudges. I was really getting time after time after time. In 3 years' time, I had a full hysterectomy, bladder surgery, a second bladder surgery to fix the first one that went wrong, and lower lumbar fusion, and then this fusion. So I think God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, was trying to get me to stop and slow down, and I wouldn't. I'd just pop right back up like the little Energizer bunny and get on that treadmill again. The neck was the final straw, because the neck, you can't just pop up. You get surgery, but then you put in a neck brace that doesn't allow you to move for 6 to 8 weeks. You can't read, you can't drive, you can't cook, you can't do anything except maybe watch TV and chill. Stop and chill and rest. And that is when everything shifted. That is when I started getting those nudges, because I wasn't so busy that I couldn't listen to anything that was happening and that was trying to be said to me, or messages that got, tried to be relayed to me. I started working on my house and letting go of things that no longer were working for me, and really clearing out. My house was always pretty. Again, I'm a designer, but letting go of things that no longer worked, that I was keeping out of guilt, out of obligation, that belonged to my parents, that didn't really fit my house, but I felt I had to keep them. As I started shifting all that, I got more and more messages. And as I got more and more messages, more and more things started happening. So I would say listen to those nudges. If they don't make any sense at all, and mine didn't at the beginning, that's totally fine. Write them down, keep a journal and date it as to the date that something happened, and then start seeing if you can find a timeline. Start seeing if there's a common theme. Start seeing if you're being encouraged to go somewhere, even if it seems really random. Miraval, the first time that I went, was completely random. A business trip that I was supposed to go with my husband for 3 weeks. It was going to be a really fun business trip. Suddenly got canceled for me. He was still going, but I was suddenly going to be left at home for 3 weeks. And he's like, go do something fun. Find somewhere to go. And as I got on the computer and I don't even remember what I typed in, but suddenly Miraval Resort in Tucson, Arizona popped up. And I'm like, what's that? So pay attention to all those little things, because that's going to lead to the next thing, to the next thing. Like, you're not going to get a book overnight. You're not going to get whatever your end goal is overnight. And I don't even think the book is my end goal. I've been told by so many healers now, TV show, 2, 3 books. I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I have another book or 2 in me. We'll see what happens. But maybe if I don't fight it as much, they won't be as hard to complete. I also created the only Feng Shui Oracle card deck too. And again, I was already busy running, moving back from Sedona to here to Tampa. And I got COVID. COVID led to shingles on the entire left side of my face, my head, and my neck, which meant I didn't leave the house for 3 weeks, because we actually thought I was going to need plastic surgery. We didn't know if my face was going to come back. And I was lucky that a little bit of filler actually brought my face back on this side to what it looks like. This side has nothing, and this side has stuff, because my whole face fell. It was crazy. The pictures are horrendous. But it stopped me for 3 weeks straight. And in that time frame, I got told to write the Oracle deck. And instead of fighting it, I just said, fine, can't go anywhere. Tell me what to write. And this sucker was done in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now that I don't fight it, things come a lot faster, and I just am like, what I always ask for and what I encourage everyone to ask for is the same thing I did with the book. Okay, fine. I will do it. I have no idea how to do this. I've never written a book. I've never wanted to write a book. I don't even know step 1. Bring me the teachers and bring me the people that I need in order to complete this project that I'm supposed to complete for my higher purpose and my reason for being on this planet at this time. So I just always ask for the right helpers, teachers, clients, whatever it is that I need to complete the task that I'm being asked to complete, because they're not small tasks. The next one they have me working on is a TV show. I'm like, what's step 1? And it's a pitch deck. I'm like, all right, bring me the people I need to complete a pitch deck. So, you just have to ask for it, because it does feel very overwhelming at the beginning, especially.
And you kind of like answered my question about, looking ahead. So I was going to ask you what's next for you, but it sounds like you already answered that question. You're working on
Maybe. That's what I'm working on, because I've been asked to work on it. Again, as I say with the book, I don't talk about it too much, because I don't know if anything will come from it. But at the same time, it's been a really interesting learning experience to understand how to put together a pitch deck, what I could create with it, and it's kind of the model that I use for how I do consultations. So it could be, in my opinion, a very interesting show, because it combines all of my modalities. But we'll see. If it's meant to be, it will happen. And it will happen in the divine timing that it's supposed to happen in. And the right people will, continue to come forward. I have a pitch deck. I think I was told the next step. What did he tell me? Because I do have an executive producer on board. I think I need to come up with a sizzle reel. So that might be the next step. So we'll see. We'll see where this all goes. But it's fun to try new things. And again, really step out of my comfort zone. I'm the kid that used to hide behind her parents' skirts and wouldn't speak. And now look.
What would be some of your final comments or advice that you would give other writers who might be thinking about trying to, you know, form some sort of document about their spiritual awakening or memoir?
And again, I don't ever, especially people who've gone to writing workshops and are true writers and have been doing this forever and got their degrees in it and all that. I don't want to come on here and tell anybody how to do it. This is what worked for me. I just
Mm.
started writing down what happened to me. And I kept very clear notes. I wrote down, I changed names in my book to protect people's privacy because the book is not about making anybody a villain or a victim. It's just about what happened. So I wanted to protect people's privacy to the very best of my ability. So, but for my notes, I have what my conversations were with whom, when, how, so that I had very clear notes to go back to, so that if anybody did come out of the woodwork and say anything, I'm like, well, here you go. Here's when it happened. And it just helped me keep things in chronological order. So I would just write down and spend, even if it was only 10 minutes a day, writing down what was going on in my life, if this is the kind of book that they want to write. And then, yes, I asked for help, and I got brought a really wonderful woman whose name is Susie Schaefer, who kind of has this amazing little umbrella. She was kind of, even though I'm self-published, because our attorney said that if we could afford to self-publish, it was better in the long run, in case then like somebody like Hay House or somebody came and picked it up. It was better to, instead of shopping it, to self-publish first. So again, I listened to everyone's advice. And she brought together the editors. I listened to my editors. I thought it was going to go one way, and they really guided me to make it as good as it really is. And I do think it turned out beautifully with a lot of guidance. I hired an award-winning cover designer, and this book
Mm.
actually won an award for cover design. So,
Wow.
but all those came to me as I needed them. When I said, okay, next step, what do you guys want me to do? Because I talk to them like I'm talking to you. I'm like,
Right.
okay, team, what do you want me to do next? And I was just really guided to have all these incredible people who were also very spiritually aligned to help me create this. This is not a one-woman show by any means. There's a lot of people that helped me behind the scenes to get this to where it is now. 3
Yeah.
awards, bestseller on Amazon. I mean, it's just crazy. Like I would never would
Right.
have imagined this. So trust that if this is your path and this is what you're supposed to do, it will come together. And
Mm.
also, I'd say the opposite. Trust if you're being blocked over and over and over again, maybe you're being told to pivot in a different direction.
Yeah, Alejandra, this has been an amazing conversation, and excited to see what happens next.
Thank you. Me too. I don't know what they have in store for me.
All
But
right.
thank you. So much fun.
I had this one guy, this author on, who I was warned that swore a lot. And so I told them, I said, so Philip, remember, you can't, we got to keep it. He's like, okay. Yeah. No. I said, I can bleep it, during editing, but then it'll be, he's like, okay, I'll concentrate really hard. I'm like, yeah, whatever you can do. And at the end of the interview, he goes, I think I did really good, Barney. I think I didn't swear at all. And I said, and I pulled out my hashtag marks on there. I'm like, just 12 times. You're pretty
Oh.
good. He was just like, grungy, like New York City,
Yeah,
like, journalist slash like expose writer. And he was just, yeah, he had a sailor's mouth. And I
that
just
is
like,
funny. That's funny. I mean, it happens subconsciously. I try and keep track of it too sometimes, but
right.
I'm good. You'll be fine with
My,
me.
I'll have I always call it like the grandma filter, like in case your grandmother's around. It's just like this magical thing where you just,